Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's tutorial, we're going to do another butterfly cake, but this one's different because it has diagonal textured buttercream, and the butterflies I actually cut out of wafer paper that or sugar sheets that we printed out at work, and I added some disco balls and some silver accents. This one was for an order, so I need to make the topper, the number topper. The 6 was already done, but I'm going to show you how I made the 1 and how I add the silver to it. I'm just using gum paste, and I roll it thick enough that you can insert a toothpick into it without it poking out the back or the front. So maybe about, what would that be? Between an 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. And the thickest spot at the bottom. You can make it thinner towards the top if you want. And that's just simply how I did that. And I laid it onto a foam mat so that it dries a little faster so air can get to the bottom as well as the top. Now we're going to go ahead and start with our butterflies. We just printed these out on our edible printer with edible paper and edible ink. And I'm just using this handy little tool. I'll try to find a link to add into the description on where you can get one of these. It's an X-Acto knife, but it pivots. So it's really great for working on cutting out things from wafer paper too, but for the sugar sheets in particular. Now, I printed out a bunch of these, and they're different angles. Some of them are from the side, and some of them are from the front. Or the top, however you want to say that. Now, these aren't printed on both sides, but that's okay because you can manipulate the placement so that you don't see that. Now, I just got done with that, and then I went ahead and started with my leveling, filling, and assembling the cake. This is 3 layers of 6-inch cake. I believe this is what our white almond vanilla. And I'm cutting each layer in half. Yes, this is white almond vanilla. I just had to think about it for a second. And each layer in half, and then I just added some simple syrup just to make sure that it retains its moisture. I'm doing a thickened dam and then a thin layer of buttercream. A thickened dam is basically just the regular buttercream with some extra powdered sugar mixed into it so that it's thicker and it holds your filling in. In particular, this is what you need to use when you're doing a fruit filling. And this cake had a fresh strawberry fruit filling. Fruit fillings are notoriously thinner, so a thickened dam is a must. Otherwise, it's going to make your buttercream a little softer even more than it is, just by the nature of what it is. And if you don't do a thickened dam, it's going to squeeze out, and that's a whole can of worms you don't want to open. So just go ahead and take the time to thicken up a little bit of buttercream. And then I went ahead and did the crumb coat right away. Now, with a cake with this many layers and a fruit filling, I wouldn't recommend doing that just because you can kind of see that it was just kind of moving just a little bit. There's a lot of layers, so that means a lot of extra filling. So I would set it in the refrigerator to firm up before you do your crumb coat. But I got it crumb coated. I was careful, and I put it into the refrigerator to firm up. And in the meantime, I made these little pieces of paper. I just used regular paper, and I folded them accordion style. And I actually did this right after I cut these pieces out, but for some reason I didn't upload the footage in the right order with that. So that's a good way to get your butterflies to stay in the with the wings folded in a little bit, to get them to stay in that position when they're applied to the cake. And just let those sit for a while. And to get the silver on those toppers, as you watch me do the buttercream on this cake, I just used some Everclear. I brushed on some Everclear onto the toppers, and then I used silver luster dust and dry brushed it on. And I thought that was a really easy way to paint on the silver without streaks. You can make a paint out of it if you want to, but you might have to do more than one coat because you can get brush marks. This technique definitely was a lot easier. And this is how I did this diagonal buttercream. Addie told me go ahead and do the buttercream however you want. And I wanted to do something a little different than your regular wave buttercream that you see with the butterflies. So I thought, let's do diagonal. I haven't seen this yet, but I wanted it irregular. So I did pipe it in a wavy-ish line on purpose. I wanted it to be irregular. And then smooth that down onto the cake. And then do your next diagonal texture on top of after you smooth it. So you never see a stopping and starting point, really, besides the raised edge of the texture. I kind of wish, when I look at it now, that I must have held my scraper at an angle a little bit, because I did remove more towards the bottom than up at the top. But that's okay, because as you see here, I went back and I'm adding some silver onto the edges. And I had left that top edge rough too, to kind of all work together. And this is just the silver luster dust mixed with the Everclear. You're gonna need to do that for this application. If you try to dry brush onto the buttercream, you're just gonna get the silver luster dust everywhere. And that's not the look I was going for this one. So I'm just touching the edges. I'm using a combination of a fan brush and a regular smaller tipped brush. I think it's a round tip brush. Just so I can get a little bit more exact on there. There you can see how I'm doing that. Some spots were a little harder to get to because of the angle that I'm working at, so that the camera can see what I'm doing. I can't necessarily get right in front of what I'm doing. You could do these even closer together if you wanted to. That would be fun also. But in my head, I wanted them to be kind of spread out a little bit. And I'm talking about the texture, the wave pattern. Then I'm adding some edible silver leaf. And I knew I was going to attach the butterflies on kind of like in a swag kind of pattern or arrangement over the side there. So I'm just adding the silver leaf first. You don't have to do that. You can do that afterwards. But I kind of wanted it intermixed with the butterflies. And it would be harder to get that on there when the butterflies are already attached. Now the buttercream had a little bit of condensation from the refrigerator, and that's why I'm not having to add anything to the buttercream to get the silver leaf to stick. If your buttercream is completely dry, just use a little bit of water or even a little bit of piping gel. Will get your silver leaf to stick perfectly. I'm just attaching the butterflies with some buttercream. And a few of these I had added on to some floral wire with it's like a double-sided tape. We have some at work that came with butterflies that we had ordered. It's like I don't know what you would call it. It's like a dots. I know there's a name for them, but it's like a little round disc of stickiness. I don't know what else to call it. But that's how I got those stuck onto the floral wire. And I just angled them all so that you can see them from the front. Now I went ahead and added some of these silver balls. They're not edible. They're on a wire, but they are sold as cake toppers. And I added a few of the disco balls. And those are not edible either. But that's okay. Just tell your client that this is not edible. Please remove them before serving the cake. It's really that simple. Just communication with your customers. And here's the final product. I know this is not my standard upload, but I thought it was pretty and something a little different. So I hope you liked it. I hope you got something from it. Please like, subscribe, share, do all the things. And before I forget, if you guys happen to miss it, or if you didn't know, Addie and I did a live last Saturday from the studio. And if you missed it, you can still watch it. go onto my channel and click on live, and it will be there. And it's about a 2-hour long video, but it's packed with information and a lot of useful things, I would say. So go check that out. And I will catch you on the next one.